So my question is about scale. I mean, I should imagine at the infrastructure layer, it's all about scale and cost efficiency, and I wonder where that places Australia, because we're quite a small country. We've only got sort of relatively narrow links compared to the rest of the world. Does that mean we're going to be consumers but not providers at the infrastructure layer to the cloud?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Because
second row, they're very good.
Yeah, thanks.
You should make more questions from the second row, that's what I reckon.
Because there's for Australia's own interest, there's a catch-22 here, that unless we have customers starting to think about the cloud and their uses, there will not be a provision industry developing, because companies within Australia, all multinationals have to compete globally for resources. And so you have the likes of Singapore and Hong Kong who are going gangbusters with cloud at the moment. And you look within Australia, and the local business case relies on the extent to which customers are saying we need to start thinking about cloud. That doesn't mean commitment, but it needs to have people starting to think creatively about how we're going to use it. And without that, the industry won't develop. Yeah. So we have, in a sense, a downward spiral which could potentially happen if we don't start thinking about what we need to do with it.
But we saw the launch of a cloud company. Was it Level 9? Name of the company that launched last week? Last Thursday? What is it? Ninefold. Ninefold. There we go. So we had a cloud company that's purely Australian that launched. Telstra has a cloud, does it not?
Yes.
All right. So we actually have a couple of instances of these. And the thing is that in the long run, the thing that will drive cloud computing as a resource, as a commodity, is the price of electricity. And we have very cheap electricity here, and probably will for some time into the future. And that may make us incredibly desirable as a cloud computing center resource over time.
Yeah, and that was actually going to be the second part of my question. How does the NBN change things, and is there an opportunity for regional Australia, for example, if we have fatter pipes and closer to the point of electricity?
To your point, I think one of the key promises for it to work is the economy of scale, that your data centers and infrastructure has to be done. So if you think of it as your local market being Australia only, so you're thinking 24 million people, that might not be enough to create the scale that you want to drive from. So I think there's an opportunity to drive a lot of new type of exports from Australia, as opposed to exporting coal and iron ore. You can start exporting intellectual property, and by the uniqueness of Australia from an electricity cost perspective, from space that you can rent fairly cheaply in some areas of Australia, and so on and so forth, then you can create Australia as a regional or a global hub for intellectual property-driven companies out to the world.
That sounds good, but are there any moves for that to actually happen?
If they are, sorry?
Well, it sounds good, but is it actually happening?
Well, venture capital is here, and the mind of the young people in universities are willing to create companies. Gold Coast is a great place to start a business from if you're a young 20 years old dude out of university or gal from university. So there's a lot of assets. The thing is, maybe government or industry has to really make the environment and the framework such that we foster that type of innovation.
Infrastructure as a service is certainly growing, and because we've had a base within Australia of IT outsourcing, we do have a base to build on. And you can see quite a number of companies that are doing things, both private cloud, infrastructure as a service. That's really where the growth is happening in Australia at the moment. Now, in a sense, the theorists would argue, is that really cloud, or is that really just a smart data centre? But my own view is it's a great start. And if you snuff out the embers of growth at this point, we will regret it in time to come.
Someone in a very excited fashion just tweeted, Ninefold, just got to mention.